known I was an ex-Lord Mayor and a magistrate and so forth. Besides, the way he talked, do you remember? I mean, they don't talk like that. I've had dealings with dozens of them.
All right, but it doesn't make any real difference, you know.
Of course it does.
No, Sheila's right, it doesn't.
That's comic, that is, coming from you. You're the one it makes most difference to. You've confessed to theft, and now he knows all about it, and he can bring it out at the inquest and then, if necessary, carry it to court. He can't do anything to your mother and Sheila and me, except perhaps make us look a bit of ashamed of ourselves in public. But as for you, he can ruin you, you know.
We hardly ever told him anything he didn't know. Did you notice that?
That's nothing. He had a bit of information left by the girl and made a few smart guesses. But the fact remains that if we hadn't talked so much, he'd have had little to go on. And really, when I come to think of it, why you all had to go letting everything come out like that beats me.
It's all right talking like that now, but he made us confess.
He certainly didn't make me confess, as you call it. I told him quite plainly that I thought I'd done no more than my duty.
Oh, Mother.
The fact is you allowed yourselves to be bluffed. Yes, bluffed.
Not really, Arthur.
No, not you, my dear, but these two. That fellow obviously didn't like us. He was prejudiced from the start. Probably a socialist or some sort of crank. He talked like one. And then, instead of standing up to him, you let him bluff you into talking about your private affairs. You ought to have stood up to him.
Well, I didn't notice you standing up to him.
No, because by that time you'd admitted you'd been taking money. What chance had I after that? I was a fool not to have insisted on seeing him alone.
That wouldn't have worked.
Of course it wouldn't.
Really, from the way you children talk, you might be wanting to help him instead of us. Now, just be quiet, so that your father can decide what we ought to do.
Yes, well, we'll have to do something and get to work quickly too. Oh, who's this? Had I better go?
No, Evan will go. I asked him to wait up and make some tea.
It might be Gerald coming back.
Oh, yes, of course. I'd forgotten about him.
It's Mr. Croft. I hope you don't mind my coming back.
No, of course not, Gerald.
I had a special reason for coming. When did that inspector go?
Only a few minutes ago. He put us all through it.
Sheila!
Gerald might as well know.
Now, we needn't bother him with all that stuff.
All right, but we're in it up to the neck. It got worse after you left.
How did he behave?
He was frightening.
If you ask me, he behaved in a very peculiar and suspicious manner.
The rude way he spoke to Mr. Burling and me, it was quite extraordinary.
You know something. What is it?
That man wasn't a police officer.
What?
Are you certain?
I'm almost certain. That's what I came back to tell you.
Good lad. You asked about him, eh?
Yes, I met a police sergeant I know down the road. I asked him about this Inspector Gould and described the chap carefully to him. He swore there wasn't any Inspector Gould or anybody like him on the force here.
You didn't tell him...
No, I passed it off by saying I'd been having an argument with somebody. But the point is, this sergeant was dead certain they hadn't any inspector at all like the chap who came here.
By jingo. A fake.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say I couldn't imagine a real police inspector talking like that to us?
Well, you were right. There isn't any such inspector. We've been had.
I'm going to make certain of this.
What are you going to do?
Ring up the Chief Constable, Colonel Roberts.
Careful what you say, dear.
Of course. Brumley 8752. I was going to do this anyhow. I've had my suspicions all along. Colonel Roberts, please. Mr. Arthur Burling here. Ah, Roberts. Burling here. Sorry to ring you up so late. But can you tell me if an Inspector Gould has joined your staff lately? Gould. Goole. New man. Youngish. Glasses. Brown hair. I see, yes. Well, no, that settles it. No, just a little argument we were having here. Good night. There's no Inspector Gould on the police. That man definitely wasn't a police inspector at all. As Gerald says, we've been had.
I felt it all the time. He never talked like one. He never even looked like one.
This makes a difference, you know. In fact, it makes all the difference.
Of course.
I suppose we're all nice people now.
If you've nothing more sensible than that to say, Sheila, you better keep quiet.
She's right, though.
And you better keep quiet anyhow. If that had been a police inspector and he'd heard you confess...
Arthur, careful.
Yes, yes.
You see, Gerald, you happen to know the rest of our crimes and idiocies.
It's all right, I don't want to. But what do you make of this business now? Was it a hoax?
Of course. Somebody put that fellow up to coming around here and hoaxing us. There are people in this town who dislike me enough to do that. Well, we ought to have seen through it from the first. In the ordinary way, I believe I would have done. But coming like that, bang on top of our little celebration, just when we were all feeling pleased with ourselves, naturally, it took me by surprise.
Oh, I wish I had been here when that man first arrived. I'd have asked him a few questions before I allowed him to ask us any more.
It's all right saying that now.
I was the only one of you who didn't give in to him. And now I say we must discuss this business quietly and sensibly and decide if there's anything to be done about it.
You're absolutely right, my dear. Already we've discovered one important fact, that fellow was a fraud and we've been hoaxed. And that may not be the end of it by any means.
I'm sure it isn't.
You are, eh? Good. Eric, sit down.
I'm all right.
All right, you're anything but all right. And you needn't stand there as if
What?
As if you've nothing to do with us. Just remember your own position, young man. If anybody's up to their neck in this business, you are. So you better take some interest in it.
I do take some interest in it. I take too much. That's my trouble.
It's mine too.
Now listen, you two. If you're still feeling on edge, then the least you can do is to keep quiet. Leave this to us. I'll admit that fellow's antics rattled us a bit, but we've found him out. Now all we have to do is to keep our heads. Now it's our turn.
Our turn to do what?
To behave sensibly, Sheila, which is more than you're doing.
What's the use of talking about behaving sensibly? You're beginning to pretend now that nothing's really happened at all. And I can't see it like that. This girl's still dead, isn't she? Nobody's brought her back to life, have they?
That's just what I feel, Eric. And it's what they don't seem to understand.
Whoever that chap was, the fact remains that I did what I did. And Mother did what she did. And the rest of you did what you did to her. It's the same rotten story whether it's been told to a police inspector or somebody else. According to you, I ought to feel a lot better. I stole some money, Gerald. You might as well know. I don't care. Let him know. The money's not the important thing. It's what happened to the girl and what we all did to her that matters. And I still feel the same about it. And that's why I don't feel like sitting down and having a nice, cosy talk.
And Eric's absolutely right. And it's the best thing any one of us has said tonight. And it makes me feel a bit less ashamed of us. You're just beginning to pretend all over again.
Look, for God's sake.
Arthur.
Well, my dear, they're so damned exasperated. They won't try to understand our position or to see the difference between a lot of stuff like this coming out in private and a downright public scandal.
And I say the girl's dead and we all helped to kill her, and that's what matters.
And I say either stop shouting or get out. Some fathers I know would have kicked you out of the house anyhow by this time. So hold your tongue if you want to stay here.
I don't give a damn now whether I stay here or
You'll
not.
stay here long enough to give me an account of that money you stole, yes, and to pay it back too.
But that won't bring Eva Smith back to life, will it?
And it doesn't alter the fact that we all helped to kill her.
But is it a fact?
Of course it is. You don't know the whole story yet.
I suppose you're going to prove now you didn't spend last summer keeping this girl instead of seeing me, hey?
I did keep a girl last summer, I've admitted it. And I'm sorry, Sheila.
Well, I must admit you came out of it better than the rest of us. The inspector said that.
He wasn't an inspector.
Well, he inspected us all right. And don't let's start dodging and pretending now. Between us, we drove that girl to commit suicide.
Did we? Who says so? Because I say there's no more real evidence that we did than that that man was a real police inspector.
Of course there is.
No, there isn't. Look at it. A man comes here pretending to be a police officer.